Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Inside Games.
It's a very somber Inside Games. We're sorry to report this week that the console wars have claimed another victim. Skyrim 2.
Skyrim was Elder Scrolls 5, so this would be Elder Scrolls 6.
Nah, don't tell it to SEO. People are searching Skyrim 2. We want to get that sweet traffic.
I mean, the next Elder Scrolls won't even be in Skyrim.
Whatever, none of that matters to people who search YouTube. It's all fine.
Microsoft cleared the last procedural hurdle to their acquisition of ZeniMax Media this week when the European Commission approved the $7.5 billion deal on Monday, March 8th.
Yeah, they announced this deal back in September 2020, but, it takes a little while for Skyrim to load. So now it's all ready to go, and, it wasn't officially official until just now.
Not to mention building another wing on a Todd Howard solid gold house.
Yeah, what does this acquisition mean for gamers, aside the fact that you can see Todd's house from space now?
All of this just works.
Well, do you want the good news or the bad news first, Lawrence? Which one do we do first?
Well, it's the weekend. I'm in a good mood, so hit me with that bad news first. I think I can take it.
Okay, so first, you probably could have assumed as much, but this means Bethesda games will not appear on PlayStation platforms anymore, as far as we know.
It's a bitter pill to swallow for anyone that managed to actually get a PS5, thinking you were buying into the future of games like Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield, but nope, not happening. And other games like Doom and Dishonored, whoosh, gone. They're ghosts now.
Yeah, there was some hope that despite the acquisition, Microsoft would still be cool. I like that using a billion-dollar company would be cool about Bethesda games publishing on Sony platforms, mostly because for some reason they were a little coy about whether or not that would actually happen.
From the looks of it, they were just waiting for the acquisition to finalize before dropping that guillotine on PlayStation.
Xbox head Phil Spencer, who generally is very transparent and honest with the audience, did the honors himself in a developer roundtable that was published yesterday discussing the acquisition.
So obviously I can't sit here and say every Bethesda game is exclusive, because we know that's not true. There's contractual obligations that we're going to see through, as we always do in every one of these instances. We have games that exist on other platforms, and we're going to go support those games on the platforms they're on. There's communities of players. We love those communities, and we'll continue to invest in them. And even in the future, there might be things that have either contractual things or legacy on different platforms that we'll go do. But if we're an Xbox customer, the thing I want you to know is this is about delivering great exclusive games for you that ship on platforms where Game Pass exists. And that's our goal. That's why we're doing this. That's the root of this partnership that we're building.
Phil basically spells it out right there. They won't bail on existing contracts or existing game services, but from here on out, the focus is on securing the Bethesda bag for Xbox Game Pass, which means Xbox consoles, PC, and cloud streaming.
Spencer did say that they would fulfill contractual obligations and whatnot. Is there a chance? That's a tiny little chance. Tell me, some future Bethesda game might still come out on PlayStation.
Yeah, possibly. Tiny. This is so you're saying there's a chance territory.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah!
What Spencer's describing is the specific circumstance where Xbox acquires a developer right as they're about to publish a game. Like they did with Obsidian in November 2018. Obsidian was about to ship The Outer Worlds. That then published on PlayStation 4 in mid-2019, despite the acquisition.
Odds are Obsidian already had contractual publishing agreements in place before the acquisition, that they were probably years old, and Xbox executed that contract in good faith rather than, breaching the contract on purpose, prompting either a lawsuit, incredibly expensive penalty payments. They don't want to deal with any of that.
Maybe, possibly. Bethesda already entered into a publishing agreement for Elder Scrolls 6 or Starfield or any of the future games that people are looking forward to, but that seems highly unlikely to me given how far those games are away from shipping.
This likely applies to games like Deathloop that are on the cusp of production, or games like Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76 that are already open. People are playing them. They're already operating on other platforms, so they're not gonna rescind those from PlayStation.
Bruce, you got to the good news early. Fallout 76 is safe. Woo! This shouldn't be a big surprise, given the message from Phil before, but Game Pass is getting a ton of games. Whee! Actually, it's more like it got a ton of games. This already happened. 20 Bethesda games are now playable on Game Pass. And here they are, rapid fire, just for you. Prey Rage 2, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Online, Wolfenstein New Order, Wolfenstein New Blood, Wolfenstein Youngblood.
I think I won, barely. All of these games are available on PC and console, except for Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout New Vegas. Those are console only.
Just like that, console wars got a little hotter. It's flaming up. PlayStation players lost a ton of anticipated future games, while Xbox players can wrap Game Pass around themselves like a cozy blanket.
Is it good for gamers? This is always the question with exclusivity. Is it good for gamers?
Well, I mean, it's not if you don't have an Xbox or a PC. But beyond that, it is actually a really interesting question, yeah.
I mean, exclusives are clearly what guided the PlayStation 4 to incredible sales in the last console generation. Games like Marvel's Spider-Man sold like crazy, 20 million units, plus a huge spike in PS4 sales when that game came out.
Xbox didn't really have those exclusives leading into the last gen, and console sales followed suit. Microsoft sold 48.6 million Xbox Ones, while Sony moved 115 million PlayStation 4s, numbers according to Wikipedia.
In response, Microsoft started gobbling up developers like Double Fine, Ninja Theory, Obsidian, and now Bethesda with a clear intent to build up their exclusive library.
That's kind of where it differs, though. So if Xbox were simply following Sony's strategy, they'd have these developers make big $60 exclusive games for their console and try to move consoles with it, but they're kind of taking a different approach. All of these developers are creating software to support Game Pass, while Sony still seems dedicated to the more traditional method for PlayStation 5.
Yeah, so which one is better is always the question that every gamer asks. For the gamer, it probably comes down to what you prefer.
I like big, expensive single-player games, so Sony's output is wonderful. And I'm glad that they're earning money with it, because otherwise they would stop making those games. But at the same time, Sony's kind of filling that niche for me, and I don't need my entire games catalog to only be huge 40-hour open-world single-player games. So I'm kind of really looking forward to the variety here.
Lawrence, you and I are on the opposite side of the spectrum. I'm more of a games-as-a-service type of person. I play multiplayer games a lot. I will generally go back to those games over and over and over, whereas single-player games, it's usually a one-and-done type thing. And a lot of the times before I was streaming, I didn't see a need to get a PlayStation and sit down and play God of War or whatever else. I'm glad I have now, but I didn't see a need to then. So it's really interesting. We kind of on opposite sides here.
So business-wise, though, it's another story. So let's take a look and see if Microsoft's come-from-behind strategy is working yet.
Yeah, and before we get into it, realize that COVID goosed gaming revenue across the board for every single company last year in 2020. So numbers are just wacky. They're crazy, crazy growth right now.
Yeah, not to mention that investor reports themselves, which is what we have to go on, aren't super granular about service-based revenue either. But, that never stopped us from doing some good old-fashioned clown analysis. We like to
Seltzer. First up, Xbox. In January 2021, Xbox reported that Game Pass had 18 million active subscribers, and that Xbox Live grew to 100 million monthly active users.
Why monthly active users and not subscribers? Who knows? Yeah, that's just how they decided to report it.
For some reason, in late 2019, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said they would stop sharing subscriber numbers with, quote, growth of the online gaming service slowing.
So now Sony. This will be confusing because Sony calls it a different quarter, even though it's the same window of time. Financial reporting with companies is weird and can be a little arbitrary based on the year and the quarter they report. Sony Interactive Entertainment announced in their Q3 2020 results that PlayStation Plus subscribers have grown to 47.4 million. Unfortunately, they didn't share PlayStation Now numbers at the time. The closest we've there is from mid-2020, when the service had 2.2 million subscribers.
The selective sharing of numbers makes it difficult to provide apples-to-apples comparisons like what we're trying here. We've got 47.4 million PlayStation Plus subscribers versus 100 million monthly active Xbox Live users, which at this point includes everyone that plays Minecraft.
If you log into to Xbox services on any platform, they count you as an active user. So it's not quite the same as giving them money. Game Pass to PlayStation Now is much easier to compare, though. 18 million for Game Pass versus 2.2 million for PlayStation Now, but that was circa 2020. So numbers have probably grown a little bit by then.
That much at least illustrates how Microsoft's Game Pass push has translated into market response for Microsoft.
But now the really interesting question, is it working? Is it even a good strategy?
Yeah, we really don't know yet. Sony is still blowing Microsoft out of the water when it comes to the bottom line.
Xbox Content and Services division earned $3.5 billion in Q2 2021, which was up 40% year over year. Meanwhile, PlayStation Games and Network division brought in $8.4 billion in the same period, which was also up 40%.
It'd be really fun to see a breakdown of that revenue number so we could compare subscription revenues directly. But of course, neither company gives us such a detailed look at their books. That's not a thing the companies usually do.
What we do get here, though, is a real validation of Sony's existing strategy. Of the $8.4 billion in revenue for their games division, over half that, $4.6 billion, purely from software sales.
Yeah, Sony's making truckloads of money by selling tons of PlayStations and games to go with them.
So Microsoft's betting that given enough time, hitting your bank account for $10 a month will pay off, and they'll probably get a huge swell in subscribers the very first time Bethesda releases an exclusive game on that service too.
But will the Game Pass bet be enough to offset the $7.5 billion acquisition of Bethesda? Xbox clearly thinks so. They really do.
It's hard to imagine Xbox division tripling their revenue through Game Pass subscriptions. If we want to say that Sony is the bar to clear here when it comes to earning money for a games division. But at the moment, I'll say for Xbox, it does seem like their best avenue to revenue growth right now.
Yeah, it's not exactly looking like Halo Infinite. It's going to make Series X's fly off the shelves. Elder Scrolls 6, though.
If they get you in Game Pass for 6 months or more, based on keeping Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive, they're starting to clear money then. And it'll probably add up to more than just the piecemeal cost of PlayStation sales.
Enough boring grown-up talk. Let's think about what it'll do for the games.
Because again, nobody knows because the future isn't here yet. But the games have yet to be made. But there were interesting comments in the developer roundtable that published this week from Xbox.
Yeah, the most specific comes from Xbox head Phil Spencer, who speculated on the potential of id Software's id Tech game engine.
What can we do inside of our organization with id Tech, which is one of the world's best game engines out there, and just make it a tool that so many developers can use to realize their vision.
Just in case you're unaware, id Tech is the engine behind the newer Doom and Wolfenstein games, and it's tempting to think of other first-person games like Halo, Elder Scrolls, or Fallout switching to that technology.
That said, there are other developers that have hit serious problems trying to port their own development tools to other studios under their corporate umbrella. Lawrence, take it away.
Yeah, you thought we'd make it through an entire episode of Inside Games without talking about Anthem, but here we are! Woo! Some of the reports suggested that EA had a mandate for all their developers to use Frostbite, and that severely limited BioWare when trying to create Anthem, that they ran into rough support issues, lack of documentation, and the fact that Frostbite was created for a different kind of game that Anthem wasn't. So they hit logistical bottlenecks all over the place.
id Tech may be great at ripping demons in half. We know it is. Maybe not so great at slow-paced open-world RPGs, but still, a gamer can dream. Well, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, speaking of buggy and unfinished games, maybe all those Bethesda open world games will be a little less busted now?
Microsoft's legion of Windows bug testers could take a crack at Elder Scrolls 6 and maybe whip it into shape. Who knows?
Here's the thing that occurs to me. Quality issues have never really been a factor when it comes to sales for Bethesda games. Skyrim and Fallout 4 sold just fine, despite being buggy, broken, and arguably unfinished. So at a certain point, harping on quality doesn't really matter when a game's fun enough, and Bethesda's pretty good about hitting that mark.
Another possible angle is that we'll see different kinds of projects out of these studios.
That much was implied by Bethesda executive producer Todd Howard, who suggested that the Game Pass structure could enable different kinds of games being made.
But then as a creator, it really unlocks some things that maybe you wanted to do, or will this find an audience, or there's certain types of games that maybe in the past could kind of get lost sometimes. And having that kind of avenue to make a game and release a game opens up so many things, a lot of things that our company and all our studios, they really, really love to do. From the creator side, it's also just, awesome.
Traditional games are evaluated on whether or not they will recoup their costs when they hit the market. Developers pitch a title, publishers decide whether or not it will make money, and it gets greenlit or rejected based on that. It's a huge, huge gamble.
That whole dynamic changes under a subscription service, though. An individual game doesn't need to recoup its individual cost. It just has to acquire or retain subscribers. And those metrics are a bit fuzzier to really realize, and it's kind of down to the judgment call of the people operating the service.
So it is possible there are tons of games that developers would like to make that just don't make sense under a traditional publishing model, but do make sense under something like Game Pass.
Yeah, games like Ninja Theory's Bleeding Edge or Obsidian's Grounded. Those are probably titles that we wouldn't really see if those developers were in a traditional publishing arrangement and had to make their own money back on the market as it is.
Not to mention long-view games like Sea of Thieves or Fallout 76. Traditionally, if games don't sell off the top, you got to make a very difficult decision on whether or not to continue to support them, just like Anthem. Poor little Anthem.
So if a game launches on a subscription service, the expectation is that it will maintain and grow over time. Sea of Thieves right now is light years away from where it launched, but it may not have had that lifespan if, in year one, it didn't move enough retail copies to justify the cost of that maintenance.
So producing games into the Game Pass system may result in more experimental games that have more time to grow into their audience, which is cool.
That is cool. Then again, that whole dynamic may cut two ways as well.
Maybe being a part of a subscription service will result in games that chase subscriber counts, or a series of low-effort games that try to look splashy to attract new subscribers.
When I think about the future of Game Pass, I kind of compare it to sort of current day Netflix. Netflix started off with a value that you couldn't really say no to, tons of licensed movies and series, but Netflix got their money. They eventually stopped paying those licensing agreements, because why? You've already got them. And now you just have Netflix originals and then loads and loads of miniseries about serial killers, and that's kind of it.
We're not sure what the video game equivalent of that would be, but odds are it's not great.
So now for the really spicy question. What's Sony gonna do in response?
Will they lean more into PlayStation Now, or will they gobble up more studios themselves?
Well, I mean, let's be real for a second. When it comes to revenue, Sony's winning by a wide margin, so it's not like they're seriously threatened here. Making huge prestige single-player games like, The Last of Us, Marvel Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima, that's their bread and butter, and that bread has a lot of butter on it right now.
It does seem like there's been a rumble or two from Sony in response to Xbox's growing Game Pass program.
For starters, Sony announced the PlayStation Plus collection for PlayStation 5. It's just a grip of first and third-party games that are freely available with a PlayStation Plus subscription.
On the surface, it's the same strategy. Provide a ton of first-party games under a cheap subscription price.
And it seems to have worked. In the last investment call, Sony revealed that 87% of PlayStation 5 owners also subscribe to PlayStation Plus.
Obviously, Sony clearly has triggers they have yet to pull when it comes to onboarding even more people into PlayStation Plus.
What's weird to me, and I think this stuck in my head because I was expecting to see something to come of it. Nothing ever really did. What's really weird is Sony seemed to want to respond to Game Pass with PlayStation Now, but then they just kind of didn't.
Back in June 2019, Sony Interactive Entertainment Jim Ryan told the Financial Times that Sony is, quote, really going to start to push it hard this year and in years to follow.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense to maybe push it with PlayStation 5 and have that be the value pairing that you set up in your marketing, but I didn't really notice that happening, or maybe it did in some other way and I just didn't see it. But yeah, the PS5, it didn't really launch with a PS Now push. It didn't really feel like there was much of a push at all, really, aside from just showing the games and then making it clear that the PlayStation platform was where to find, these world-class games.
Yeah, which honestly is pretty Sony, and it works. I mean, we've proven that it works here. Best case scenario here is that Sony keeps making the big prestige single-player games, and Xbox supports a whole family of developers, making less traditional games under a subscription model. That way, each company finds a niche, and it results in more games and more variety for me and you and all the people watching. The gamer. I hate that word. The gamer.
What do you mean you hate that word?
I hate it.
That's what we're doing this for. We're out.
Everybody's a gamer, Lawrence.
That's right.
Everybody plays video.
We're out here for
Everybody.
the gamers and then the single moms. We're here to support you guys. The only downside for the gamers is that you got to buy another box if you want to play everything and learn all those different button prompts, man.
That's the worst.
So aggravating. There's got to be. Why? Maybe someday in the future, if Microsoft really wants to be good guy Microsoft, maybe they'll have like button prompt switching options in their games. Wait, no, that would be a copyright issue. That'd be cool though.
I just wish that one of these companies just decide on, let's do the XBAY or let's do the triangle, square, X, circle. Just anybody, because here's the thing. Here's the way I know it. Triangle's on the top, right? Yep. Triangle's on the top.
It's like a triangle. It's pointing up.
And then what is Y on the top for Xbox?
Yes.
Like Y is on the top, right?
Yes.
I'm looking at a controller right now.
It is.
It's Y. Yeah, it's Y. Okay.
X is on the top for Nintendo. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's the worst. But X is on the left for Xbox, but on the bottom for Play.
Just make a controller where every button is X. There. Fixed it.